one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it because you can.
From calmatters.org, we get this story. Amid calls for police reform in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder in 2020, California lawmakers set out to raise education standards for incoming law enforcement officers. 5 years after Floyd, as California faces a widespread shortage of police officers, those reforms are being debated once again. In 2020, former Assembly member Reggie Jones-Sawyer introduced a bill that would have required prospective police officers, 18 to 25 years old, to earn a bachelor's degree before entering the police force. A growing body of research shows that college educated law enforcement officers tend to use less force and exercise better decision making. The bill was ultimately revised after it was criticized as too restrictive by law enforcement and labor leaders. In an updated version, which was signed into law in 2021, lawmakers agreed to raise the minimum age of a police officer to 21 years old, and they asked local police and school officials to create recommendations for new higher education requirements. This year, Assemblymember Jackie Irwin, a Democrat from Thousand Oaks, is proposing a new bill to establish education standards based on those recommendations. But some law enforcement and criminal justice reform advocates are skeptical, albeit for different reasons. Starting in 2031, Irwin's new law would require incoming officers to get a policing certificate, associate degree, or bachelor's degree, although there are some exceptions, within 36 months of graduating from a police academy. So you'd have 3 years to get a 4-year degree. It also creates a law enforcement recruitment task force to identify and recruit candidates for law enforcement agencies throughout the state. In an interview with Cal Matters, Jones-Sawyer said the current bill by Irwin undermines the original intent behind his 2021 law by allowing a loophole for incoming officers to satisfy the education requirement through a certificate, prior military experience, or out of state law enforcement experience, rogue cop. Some police experts, such as former Justice Department official Arif Alikan, echoed those concerns and said the exceptions swallow the whole. It completely obviates the need to have any educational background, he said. Officers who have a college education tend to perform better. Representatives from some law enforcement unions, by contrast, think the bill still goes too far. Dustin Smith, president of the Sacramento Police Officers Association, said the new requirements would be catastrophic to staffing statewide, limiting the supply of incoming officers. Those concerns haven't stopped the bill from sailing through the legislature, where it has received widespread support from many law enforcement agencies. It's supported by all of California's statewide law enforcement advocacy groups, including the California Police Chiefs Association, the California State Sheriff's Association, the California Association of Highway Patrolmen, and the umbrella labor organization that lobbies on behalf of police unions, which is the Peace Officers Research Association of California. All these associations. It has received no formal opposition. In introducing its bill, Jones-Sawyer viewed a college education as paramount to law enforcement training because it would expose incoming officers to new perspectives, healthy debate, and critical thinking skills. He said, "We keep looking at law enforcement as if anybody can do it." No, you need a certain type of person to have the skills and ability to deal with the modern day policing, he said. Anybody can do it, dude. Instead of requiring an associate degree in modern policing, as Jones Sawyer said, he intended the new bill allows incoming police officers to meet the education standards with 4 years of military or out of state law enforcement experience. While Jones Sawyer intended to carve out certain exceptions for people with prior specialized military or law enforcement experience, they would have only been given some credit, not all. New officers also have the option of attaining a professional policing certificate from an accredited college or university, although that curriculum has not yet been developed. The new bill does not make policing better, it makes it devolve back into what it used to be, said Jones-Sawyer. Irwin maintained that the bill advances his efforts and will help police officers improve themselves as they rise through the ranks. Many police chiefs and sheriffs view the bill as a meaningful way to raise education standards while affording incoming officers the flexibility to meet them. In May, Los Angeles Sheriff Robert Luna wrote a letter to Senator Jesse Aragon, an Oakland Democrat and chair of the Senate's Public Safety Committee, arguing in favor of Irwin's bill. The sheriff's office once required all applicants to have a bachelor's degree, wrote Luna, but the requirement was short lived because the office saw an immediate decline in applicants by about 50%. Yeah, they're hiring idiots off the street. Luna said Irwin's bill is a more workable, more inclusive path forward because it includes exceptions for those with non academic experience. Although the vast majority of local law enforcement agencies nationwide only require a high school diploma, having a college degree can often create more opportunities for better pay and promotions. All across the state, law enforcement officials say staffing is an ongoing problem, which more education requirements might exacerbate. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office is short roughly 1,500 officers as of June 1st this year, according to spokesperson Misha McClendon. The office was able to respond to recent protests through the support of staff from other areas of law enforcement, including its jails and detective division, McClendon said. In rural areas such as Plumas County in the northeast corner of the state of California, Under Sheriff Chad Herman said a single officer is sometimes responsible for covering communities that are as far as 70 miles apart. If that officer needs to make an arrest and drive a suspect to jail, a town could spend hours without any nearby police on duty. Sheriffs and police officers say the shortage is due to several factors, including low wages in some communities, an aging workforce, and negative perceptions of police following high profile instances of misconduct. Thank you. Departments are offering starting bonuses and other incentives, such as better benefits, as a way to recruit new officers. Some agencies gave record breaking raises to officers coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. In some places, including the California Highway Patrol, entry-level officers can expect six-figure salaries, wow, and top-notch benefits. But not all agencies can offer those perks. We're not a rich county. We can't offer the big hiring stipends, said Herman. He went on, by adding a requirement like an associate degree, it's going to make it harder to get people from our hiring pool. He said even exceptions for those with military service may not help the recruiting problem since the hiring pool is so small in a county with just under 19,000 residents, Plumas County. While the new law enforcement recruitment task force in Irwin's bill is designed to ease some of those staffing challenges, Christy Lopez, a law professor at Georgetown University, said it's troubling to see that it would only comprise people from law enforcement. She said we need to be moving towards a recruiting approach that seeks to screen in the right people, not just screen out the worst people. And to make sure that we develop that sort of approach to recruiting, you need perspectives broader than just law enforcement. She said the police recruiting crisis is a myth. She said the idea that there's a crisis in recruiting presupposes that we know what the right number of police officers is and that we're not there. And we don't know that, she said. Devin Nisbet grew up in Calaveras County, and as a kid, He had a positive experience with one of the officers when he prank called 911. Instead of just disciplining Nisbet, who was about 6 years old, the officer gave him a tour of the police cruiser and handed him a patch with the sheriff's office logo. He said, "It made me want to be a part of it." Now, after dropping out of college, Nisbet was working for a grocery store in Calaveras County when that same sheriff's office held a recruiting event in a nearby parking lot. The agency promises a $10,000 bonus spread out over 3 years for new recruits. At the time, he said he thought to himself, why not try to do this? It took Nisbet roughly 7 months to pass the county's background checks and exams, which include a written test, a psychological exam, which is a lie detector, and a medical exam. He then received a tentative job offer from the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office, contingent on completing the police academy. This January, he enrolled in the police academy at San Joaquin Delta College in Stockton. Police academy training in California typically takes a minimum of 6 months, but some police departments require far more training. Nisbet is paid by the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office for the entirety of this training, just under $34 an hour. The college program requires students to learn CPR, first aid, and various laws about use of force, search and seizure, and firearms, which they forget as soon as they get out of the academy. They're tested in scenarios that can include chases or combat. In one timed exam, they must pull a 165-pound dummy across a 25-yard obstacle course, run 500 yards, and scale a 6-foot fence. Some students fail to pass the academy's courses. Others never get hired because they fail the police department's background checks or have low scores. Nisbet is set to graduate on July 2nd, at which point he'll begin working, but his training won't be over. New officers must complete weeks of field training and a year of probation. He said, I believe that people, if they want to do this job, they need to get evaluated first, said Nisbet. Though he said an associate degree shouldn't be required. Said many of his classmates don't have a college degree. And so all of this, if you want to put it in a can, what they're really saying is, look, we want our cops to have college education or university education because they'll make better decisions. They'll have better, you know, decision-making skills and thinking better. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, I think the problem with law enforcement, and there's so many problems, man, I could spend another 30 minutes talking about this, but I'm just going to give you one facet of what I think one of the problems is. One of the problems in law enforcement, well, there's a couple, and they're intertwined. One is when a cop starts to uh, performing in a manner of misconduct. He's violating somebody's civil rights, or he's stepping over the line, or he's being very, very unprofessional, not just unprofessional, but very unprofessional. You have his fellow officers who turn their head and go, I don't see it. Instead of going, yo, 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 let me talk to this guy. Go over there. Why don't you do that instead? But they just turn their head and they walk away and they don't say anything. That's one of the problems. Another problem that's kind of intertwined is these police chiefs and these sheriffs, and I don't mean anybody in general, I mean nationwide. So I'm not talking about anybody specific. I just mean nationwide across the board. There are police chiefs and sheriffs that when their police officers or deputies do, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it, uh, are guilty of misconduct, they justify it in a way where they can go, well, we don't want to get sued. We don't want to be liable for anything. So, he was really what he was trying to do. I don't give a damn what he was trying to do. The cop's being an asshole. And if he's violating somebody's Fourth Amendment or First Amendment civil rights, He's violating somebody's civil rights. But these leaders who want to justify it and go, well, we don't want to get sued. I might get fired. Well, you fire that clown, you won't have to worry about it anymore. You see. But I think that's, and I mean, there's so many directions I could go with this. This is a can of worms. But I just wanted to give you something specific to kind of talk about. I think that's first and foremost. If you want to solve this problem, she said instead of getting the worst people out, we should be bringing in the best people. Well, you're not going to bring in the best people until you stop bringing in the worst people. That's where you got to start. So these cops need to grow some, cojones. And when your partner's messing up, go, don't do that, dude. Just do it. Why am I getting in trouble by my sheriff or my police chief? So what? Tell the sheriff, hey, he's being an asshole. So I told him to step back. Grow some nuts. That's what you need to do, right? Because there are good cops out there, I know, and we can have a conversation on this. Don't get all upset and go, I'm unsubbing from you, bootlicker. No, I'm just saying there are law enforcement officers out there that are trying to do right. I believe that. The problem is when their partner messes up, they don't step up and go, dude. They try to justify it. They try to go, well, no, 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 cut that. They need to do is step up and go, But yeah, so these cops that are trying to do right, that guy over there that's being a dick, he's bringing the heat on you.